welcome to the improvement season. It is me, Steve Hall, and on the other end is Pascal Floor, actually repping the Revive Stronger t-shirt this week.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know where mine are. I don't dig out. I don't know if it's like lockdown or what, but I like wear the same clothes just all the time. Like they go, I wear them, they go in the wash, I wear them again. And
it's so crazy because all of my jeans, they are the same type of jeans. So I have like, I think 7 from Legend London, 7 jeans. And 4 of those are black, 3 of those are blue, right? And they are the same, like literally, not literally, but it's the same one, same model. And it's just like when one of those is worn like for a couple of days, if not even weeks, then because I heard that you shouldn't actually put the jeans in the dishwasher too often.
Neither in the dishwasher.
Dishwasher.
That's great.
In a washing
That's
machine.
something I do.
Yeah. That is probably also something that you can do, probably, right? In a washing machine because of the material and stuff like that. But then I just throw it into the washing machine and I go for the next pair. And for other people outside, it must look like that I'm wearing the same clothes all the time. Yeah, that's the story of my life then.
I really like just the simplicity of like, I don't know, these trainers fit me, so I just buy this brand of trainer. I sometimes, because I just regret it whenever I vary it. I'm like, oh,
totally.
This doesn't fit as well. It's not as good quality. I'm like, just stick with what I know.
Especially when it comes to clothing now. And actually, I mean, over the past years, more and more brands came out that also then make tailor wear for people who are more so muscular, not in the ACES type muscular fit, but more so like properly muscular. Because I do remember a couple of years back, I think 2017 or so, I ordered muscular fit from ACES. Came to me and was just like for skinny dudes. It was awful, right? But yeah, I heard that very successful, a trait of very successful people is to wear always the same things. Where I'm just like, oh man, get out of here with these kind of things, right? But yeah.
Guess I assume the thought process is you thinking less, spending less time on shit that doesn't matter.
Totally.
So you get to spend time on the stuff that does matter. But I think I would be lying if my presentation, how I look, like when I get a fresh haircut, beard trim, I dress myself nicely, I feel better about myself.
That's true.
And I don't know if everyone feels that way, but I definitely have some well, I guess it's narcissistic. You have to be a bit narcissistic to do bodybuilding.
Sure.
But the, what's it called? Materialistic. I know you're not very materialistic. I definitely have some materialistic traits.
Yeah.
Not many, but some.
Speaking of which, that brings me to a very, very interesting question I have for you, Steve. And I've been thinking about it ever since yesterday. And my first question is this one, and then that brings me down to a different topic then. Do you know anyone in your circles? You don't have to name names or so. It can be even someone out of from your past in the school that you went to school with, who is now filthy rich. And I mean filthy rich. Like so much money that person could, if he really tries, only then he can actually spend all of it.
Not that I'm aware of. I can't think of anyone who I know has definitely got like shed loads of money. Muscle's always on the mind. But no, I actually really, I don't know. I can think of people from school, but I'm not aware of anyone who's like just absolutely made it. I know one person, I don't know why this is coming to mind. Someone like a year or two below me has become somewhat of a famous comedian. Like he's been on some TV shows and stuff, but I don't imagine he's minted though, because he's not like a big time or anything. So no. What about you?
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of that because I think that the majority of people who really have like made a lot of money, maybe they don't really show it, especially here in Germany. I think it's a different mentality in the US because many people are proud of what they've made. But at least here in Germany, people keep it to themselves, like massively, right? Even if you have money, you don't drive the fanciest car, right? You still have just like a family van or something like that, right? And so I used to know this girl. So back when I was in the photography business, I was working for a music management company, and there was we had like a video recording for a music video. We needed to kind of get some models, and I knew her and another girl, and we got them. We casted them for the video shoot then, and this is now ages ago. Like I think must have been 2013 or so, right? So a girl from Berlin as well, and now, so yesterday, I don't know why she popped up in my Instagram feed, right? And I then checked out her profile, and it turned out that she's now together with a multi-millionaire. And it's so crazy, so engaged with him. And this multi-millionaire, you can even find him over on Wikipedia and stuff like that, why he came to that million. He kind of sold his video gaming development company for $150 million. And she is his wife now, right? And it's so crazy because that made me think of a lot of things. Because I find it very curious and very interesting to imagine what it must be like to kind of live a normal life, such as you and I. We know what it's like to not really have money, especially in student years when you've been eating only kind of oats and stuff, right? Because you didn't really have money, and what it must be like for someone who to all of a sudden have so much wealth that it's becoming so hard to spend it all. Of course, in her situation, she didn't earn it, of course. But she's now engaged with him, right? And you could see that she's now flying around, going on holiday in private jets and all that kind of stuff. And she probably doesn't have to work for the rest of her life, right? And it's just so crazy to see. She's not an influencer or so, where she's just like posting in front of or in a private jet. In reality, she didn't fly with that one. But it's crazy to know now what it must be like for her, because I knew her back then, what it must be like to completely have a different lifestyle now. She was on holiday in St. Moritz and stuff like that, right? Just things that only the super rich are doing, right? It's so crazy now to think about it, like what it must be like for someone like you just to get so much money that you can basically fucking do whatever you want.
Firstly, I apologize for Ada losing her shit.
You didn't speak, so I can edit that one out.
Oh, cool. No one can hear. Unless she barks whilst I talk now. Yeah, it's weird. It's what it reminds me of, talking about our cringy shows that we watch. You think of like basically almost nobodies go on to these shows and they come out like, and now they've got like 1 million followers on Instagram, and that 1 million followers buys them a ludicrous income. And now it's like they suddenly have all this. The good thing she has there is like, she probably doesn't have the popularity and fame which often comes with such large amounts of money, which I think is often like eats away at your mental health and isn't like so she's almost got all the positives in a sense, but in the same way, I guess it's not hers. And I'd always struggle with that personally. If like, I don't know, even if like my parents were stupid rich, maybe I'd change my perspective if I was in that position. But I feel like, I don't know, there's something very rewarding about being like, 5 years ago, I was kind of living here with this sort of income. Now I'm 5 years later living here with this sort of income. It's like, well, that's relatively decent. And I don't know, it's like bodybuilding and I don't know, just taking a shortcut versus like actually gutting it out and getting all those results.
Statistically speaking, the people that get rich overnight and by accident are the ones who are, I think after 1 year, I think 70 or 80% have already lost all of that wealth, newly gained wealth. And after 5 years, I think it's 90% or so. You can look it up, statistically speaking. There's something like that. So if you haven't really earned it, you don't know how to handle that wealth, and you don't know how to reproduce it or make more out of that, right? But in her case, of course, it was her husband. And I think it is, I think, very, very hard to spend like $150 million. But I mean, to be fair enough, we've seen it all the time with some certain famous people being broke. And you just think like,
how?
Dude, just 10 years back, you probably also had like 100 million or so. Like those Hollywood stars who just like I don't know, bought a house for 15 million. Of course, then you get broke at some point.
I think it just randomly came up on my Instagram. And I think it was meant to be, I don't know if it actually was, Gordon Ramsay's like car. And it was like over $1 million. This car cost over $1 million. And it was insane. It was fucking nice. But it's just like, if you want to spend your money, like, you could spend 150 million. I don't know about more than that, but I don't know.
But overall,
those cars.
But once again, I just found it very, very interesting because I've never really met anyone in my life who I knew is super rich or so. Maybe they were, or maybe we met a couple of people already, but we weren't aware of that. But just knowing that she's now living that lifestyle, and she's probably living that for the rest of her life. It was just like crazy to think about it, right? And it makes you just reflect on certain things and think like, okay, how would you react if you are in that situation, right? Just something like that. I was just curious because I even told Katie about it, and it's funny.
I think this is maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but from the outside in, you have to be in those circles, right? So for you and me, particularly me, like I've never been in a circle with super rich individuals there. And I mean, I guess it's slowly changing, but most super rich people are generally men. And then there's models, and they go to like shoots for expensive shoots and brands and stuff. And I don't know, it might be a company that a male guy owns or something. And then you often see, then it's like these models get with these kind of rich dudes.
This is probably exactly what happened with them because I know that she was around in LA and also in London. And I think that she was probably on some kind of event, and this is probably where they've met, right? She's actually very, very beautiful. No surprise when she's like traveling around as a model. But I would assume that it was like this that they met. As cliche as it sounds, right? And as always, 2021, we don't want to piss anyone off just because we're telling a story here, but this is just, what it probably was. And this is also basically what Katie said. And Katie is a very beautiful woman. Okay, I'm biased, right? But
she was a model.
She was, yeah.
There you go.
And she also said, like, most often it is like that. Right, they're traveling around. They are participating at those very exclusive events where only the rich and famous have access to, and then this is where you are then being introduced in that small little circle, and that circle stays for themselves most of the time.
I've got a plan, Pascal.
Okay,
I can become a one-on-one PT for a very luxury, exclusive gym. So I'll earn an all right amount. But then, the people that go to these luxury exclusive gyms, all the rich people. Yeah. And then I can just get some female, like, bazillionaire. I can sucker her in, build up the glutes at the same time.
Yeah. And I thought you're going to say, like, the plan looks like this, Pascal. I'm going to become a female, and then I'm going to hunt down a rich man and
do what's that film, White Chicks?
Oh, I never watched that one.
It's bad. It's weird.
Or we just need to become male supermodels such as in Zoolander. Right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's the way.
Blue Steel. You were a model, so you've got a step ahead of me.
Yeah, but it wasn't really a model, right? I was never like in Milan walking down the catwalk. Right? It was more like people shooting and making a little bit of money on the side, but I think that this is basically, if you look somewhat like an authentic human being, then this is probably you're qualified for that, and this is what I've done basically.
Should we get to something more relevant?
Yeah,
the improvement season. How are things on your end? You started. Did you start dieting last?
Yeah, last week,
but not when we recorded, right?
No, the day after.
Yeah.
The day after, with the start of the new mesocycle. I don't know what it is. Same story, just repeats or keeps on repeating each and every single week. I'm still a little bit flashy eyes. I still don't know what it is overall. Maybe I I didn't take enough of a break. Maybe it has something to do with the neck or so, that some kind of nerves are a little bit, I don't know, impinged or whatever, and that kind of impairs the blood flow or like the signaling to my brain. So I need to get even more testing done. Right now, I'm of course a little bit hesitant then in just like continuing to cut or doing the cutting phase overall, because I simply don't know what's going on. But at the same time, I just wanted to get started doing something. Even though that I have to say that it's much, much harder if you just stay at home and you've no, so the gym is always kind of my place to be, where I can just like focus on other things. And now everything is just here at home, right? The entire focus on training, nutrition, work, family, everything is just like at home. And that is, for me personally, not the greatest thing. But yeah, that is basically it in a nutshell, in a very, very short nutshell.
But yeah, I guess, yeah, you're able to train and you're dieting, but you're still, yeah, getting those symptoms. I know we've spoken about it a lot, and it still just seems to be like I'm hoping, from my perspective at the moment, I'm like, hopefully time just is the healer of all, and it just suddenly what you wake up and you're like, oh, that was a distant memory.
Yeah,
and it's gone.
Yeah,
but
I honestly hope so as well. But it's now present for such a long time, and I still have hopes that it then goes away once I'm going back into the gym. That something is going on here, that maybe I'm spending too much time in front of a monitor or a screen. Maybe I don't know, whatever. Maybe there are certain exercises that put so much pressure on my neck overall, which I've now, so there was a time where I didn't do any kind of shrugs here at home because I thought that maybe this is causing too much tightness in my neck, and that causes then some kind of impairment here. But at the same time, this is also what I once thought is the case in my rhomboids, when I then always had those spasms in my rhomboid. And I did the counterintuitive thing then at some point, based on recommendations of my physiotherapist, to actually train the rhomboids more, so that I'm kind of counteracting that. And that helped, right? And then I thought, like, maybe it's the same now with the neck as well. Maybe I need to incorporate more shrugs, so that the stimulus is then provided to then also relax afterwards, right? So this is where I now reincorporated some of the shrugs. And yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see how things are now developing. And I really do hope that when things are going back to relatively normal, that once the gyms are reopened, that it's just dissipating. I don't know.
It's funny you say that. I've experienced that myself. I literally just had a client check in today, and they have had some low back pain, and we've been doing good mornings, but really light. And he was like, did one set of good mornings, just as like, that's all we programmed for week one. And he was like, afterwards, my back felt better than ever. And the following days felt better than ever. So mate, there's got to be something to that kind of therapeutic through actively using it. So yeah, it's just unfortunate it shrugs, because shrugs are boring as hell. I hate shrugs.
Yeah, that's true.
So much.
Maybe I should do something like the neck program from Jeff Nippert.
Jeff. Well, can look at some of that. Buy the neck brace thing.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking of. the neck belt, or what it's called.
How much are you weighing now?
84 kilograms.
Okay.
Don't know what it's in pounds now. If you can't do the math with 2.205. Don't know. What is
lighter than me now, though, right? That's lighter than me,
yeah. The funny thing is, and this is something that you reply on that? I think you didn't. You didn't even comment on that one over on WhatsApp. So basically, I told you that I started things off now with not really weighing myself and tracking, such as I did here in the gaining phase, because I never would have thought I would ever diet that way. But after years of basically always doing like gaining and cutting phases and maintenance phases, I have a very good understanding where my caloric deficit lies, caloric maintenance lies, and also caloric surplus lies. Of course, there may be a little bit of a deviation every now and then, but my metabolism I don't like to call it metabolism, but my activity or energy expenditure is not really fluctuating as it is like for someone like you, right? Your body is very adaptive in that sense. And my lifestyle is, to be honest, very, very, very much the same. Each and every single day, I'm taking the same amount of steps, getting up at the same time in the morning, getting to bed at the same time, picking up the kids at the same time. So everything is just like this same each and every single day, right? And even though that we've now moved houses, it hasn't really changed. It's just a different environment, right? And because of that, I just knew like, okay, the way I've dieted before with the things that I've eaten before, it worked very well the last time. So what is it? Last year? Yeah. 1.5 to last year, 1.5 years up to this year now. That was just like, yeah, it worked very, very well. So why not just jump back on what I've done there and not so much stress about weighing myself at the first time and tracking everything like super meticulously, because I know for sure that I'm then in a caloric deficit and that I should be losing at a very appropriate pace as well. And I never would have thought that I would ever do something like that, because in the past I was always convinced, like, is it your lightsaber?
It wasn't. I haven't got it though. It was a reminder for this.
Okay.
Stupid thing.
Yeah, but to get back to the topic, I never would have thought that I would ever start or even do a cutting phase like this.
Yeah, I'm full of questions now, because I've never for a long, long time, like, not done that approach. And I think I'd be nervous to do it because I have so long like had the data and I like the data. And like you said, for me, despite having very similar lifestyle and like I'll hit the same every single day, my body just likes to adapt. And so things can slow down and I'm maybe not on top of it. How's it been? Like, is it less stressful, or like, because I know kind of, I guess the only difference is you would step on a scale and track it, and you're not tracking your food, MyFitnessPal, you're using that?
I mean, I'm always plugging everything into MyFitnessPal anyway, but it's not that I'm taking the data from MyFitnessPal and put it into my spreadsheet and then track everything there, right? So that's basically what I'm referring to tracking. I'm still plugging everything into MyFitnessPal, but it's also not as diligent as I think it would be necessary if you are new to dieting or if you are deep into a contest prep also, right?
Yeah.
There, it becomes way more important.
Okay.
Now I just know I'm in a caloric deficit. I know, so certain things I'm still weighing, of course, but if I eat in the morning time, my pack of quark, which contains like 500 grams of quark, of course, it could deviate by like plus minus 10 grams or so. This is something that I'm not tracking at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not putting that on the scale.
You're still quite
right?
precise.
Exactly. And also then the broccoli that I'm eating alongside with my steak is something that right now I'm not tracking. It's just like, could be 200 to 300 grams of broccoli maybe, and then I'm plugging that one in. So the accuracy, I would say, is maybe at a 3 or so, on a rating from 1 to 5. And I stepped on the scale once, right? And thus I knew that I'm now 84 kilograms. And I will definitely pick it up the leaner I'm getting, right? That's for sure. And I will also just double check myself every now and then, just stepping on the scale, just to see what's going on here now. Right? Are we still on track or so? And then once I'm more so in it, then I will pick it up once again. But there's no real difference to whether it stresses me out more or not, because tracking in it for itself has never stressed me out. So it's just like a different way of doing it. Okay. While at the same time, probably everything is the same, with the exception that I'm now just like logging everything into the spreadsheet from the get-go. But simply because this is where experience comes into play. I'm just basically repeating what I have done in the past without fooling myself, without just like justifying my behavior. And in reality, I know that I'm not repeating what I've done in the past. This is basically very much what I've done already. So I know that it works.
That's pretty much how I do my entire off season as well. Yeah. Just, I still track everything, but I don't weigh out veggies. I don't weigh out fruits normally. Just like fats and proteins. Normally I weigh out, but like eating half of something, I don't weigh it out, that sort of stuff. I don't weigh out very much. So, but I do weigh myself on the scale. That's the only difference, I think. And then the start of a cut makes complete sense to take a similar relaxed approach and dial it in when you need to, rather than like going like weighing every grain of rice and stuff and like being really anal about everything, like weighing out your bread and your rice cakes and the tub of quark, which should be 500 grams weighing out.
So especially in
you
the
don't need that at the
beginning,
start.
And also then with the scale weight readings, so what would it tell me that I don't know already? It would tell me that we are heading down very rapidly, right? Because of the transition from a gaining phase into a cutting phase. So there's no news to me there. So I can just take it easy at first, and then maybe after like 3 weeks, step on the scale more frequently and see like, okay, now that things are settling in here, let's pick it up and let's do it more frequently.
I think I haven't heard your WhatsApp on this yet. If you left me this yesterday, I listened to the first like 2 minutes, and then I was on the tube. And I was like, God damn, I can't hear this.
I can't be bothered.
I couldn't hear it on the tube. It was too noisy. So I was just like, I'll listen to this another time. I just haven't got around to it yet. So I'll have that. And we've already discussed it. So
how's it going on your end then?
Pretty smooth. I had, I guess there's actually nothing interesting. My steps lowered by 2,000 on average because I was taking Ada out basically for a short walk during the day, and then in the evening I'd do the long walk with Charlotte. And instead, Ada had been really barky recently, so I was like, right, we need to tire her out a bit more. I'm going to do a long walk during the day, and I'm not doing the evening walk. You can just walk in the evening. So I actually chopped my steps down, which is great. It bought me more time for stuff, so that was quite nice. And actually, that does seem to have been enough for my body weight to keep trickling up. So I didn't have to push food up. So I'm still sitting at like 3,800 calories, which is nice. I didn't need to move the calories any higher. I had one freaky weigh-in like yesterday. It was like 195, almost 196 pounds. I was like, holy shit. Like, I need to start dieting if that's actually what I'm going to start weighing. But I came right back down to 194 this morning. So I'm going to probably finish up. I guess I'll probably be around 196 or so by the time I finish my next mass. And then I'll probably drop a couple of pounds. So I'll be around 195 pounds, I think, when I start my diet eventually. Maybe even drop a bit below that, but that'll be comfortable. Food is getting challenging to eat. I think it's partly this week was particularly harsh because I had a few stressful days for stupid reasons. It's too long probably to go into here. And then also like overreaching is just stressful, isn't it? I forget actually that tends to blunt appetites when you are massing, like when you're taking high volume all the way to not RAR, it's just like, fuck. The body's just stress, doesn't want to eat. So I managed though. I have to vary things quite a lot, I'm finding. So I can't just have like the same cereal. I have to be like, have this cereal, I mix to this cereal. Now I'm going to have like white bread with jam. Like I just have to keep switching it up. Otherwise I'm just like, well, I can't deal with this. But yeah, it's going smoothly. I'm pretty happy with how things have been moving. Hit a few numbers that I've never hit before for like bench pressing, incline pressing. A lot of the movements I'm doing are kind of new anyway. I probably need to check if I've hit PRs for like pull-ups or something, but I haven't checked. But they're all moving well. Like I can't complain. This week's been it's going well so far. I will say, I've noticed the increase in frequency, or at least my elbows and my knees have noticed it. They're getting a bit more.
Because you switch over to upper and lower 3 times per week.
So basically hitting every muscle group 3 times a week. Obviously there's some overlaps because some of them are used within other muscle exercises, but officially only training everything kind of 3 times a week, which I just was getting bored of training fucking calves all the time. So I was like, just do the 3 times a week and kill them off. Like abs as well. Like I could probably train those more frequently because they recover, but there comes a point where I'm just like, I want to prioritize other stuff and they're boring. So I'll get them done 3 times a week. That's still decent. But yeah, so hitting the knees relatively a lot with all the squatting and the sissy squats, and then particularly like tricep movements and pressing starts aggravating the elbow a little bit, only towards this week really. The knee did give me a bit of grief a couple of weeks ago, but it's been all right. I've just been careful with it. So yeah, looking forward to the deload next week, and then one more to finish me off. I don't know what I'm going to do to modify things. I'm probably going to include a few more metabolites. I don't tend to use tons. Like I don't put them at the forefront. So maybe I'll probably just increase some rep ranges and maybe put in a few more metabolite techniques to keep me kind of healthy in terms of joints and connective tissue for one more mass. I'm getting to that uncomfortable stage because I'm like 195 pounds, but I don't feel very lean when I'm like in of myself. But when I take a check-in photo or like film some form and I see myself, I'm like, oh, I look leaner than I think I look. Like down at myself. It's kind of weird. So yeah, I'm not really looking forward to the rest of massing, but I'm going to do my best because the cut will come and then there's no massing going on.
No, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to the time now ahead. Speaking of which, we have now today a more of an interesting episode where we are bringing on someone we are referring to a lot of times. He's one of my athletes. His name is José Loureiro from Portugal. You guys know him as Z, the enhanced monster over on Instagram. So feel free to check him out. We'll now get him onto the podcast and talk a little bit about his training, a little bit about his endeavors, where he's coming from. And then, of course, we're going more so in depth or into the topic at hand, that is his low volume tolerance, or volume tolerance in general, and then talk a little bit about that. All right.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
So he is the man. You guys know him already just from us talking about him all the time. And now there's a face to the story behind the man, right? So Z, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks.
How's the situation in Portugal now?
It's getting better, I guess. However, things will only start reopening again on May, it appears. And I'm talking about gyms, commerce, although we are still not certain if some things will reopen during this month, but I doubt it.
But you're not going to the gym anyway any longer. You've built your own home gym, right? The paradise at home.
Yeah.
So I assume that you have everything that you are looking for at the moment, especially because you're prepping. It's the first weeks of your prep. And how is that one going so far? I mean, I'm asking you the questions. I'm your coach. I know it all. But of course, these are just like the things that the people should know as well.
Yeah, you're quite aware of the state of things. It's going well, very well. I just completed the first cutting mesocycle. I'm now entering the second one. No diet fatigue whatsoever until now. No difficulties adhering to my nutritional protocol. Training has been good. I still was able to progress a bit during the first meso. Man, no, I don't think I've got any negative aspects to point out, really. It has been smooth sailing up until now. We don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the goal is, can you also then talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So this is my first prep ever. The goal is to compete in the UKDF BA and BNBF shows. Hopefully, because with all this pandemic going on, we can't really make any major plans for the future. Everything is a bit uncertain. So hopefully I'll be able to travel to the UK during the periods of the shows. If it turns out that isn't possible, I'll have to throw myself at other shows, other maybe federations in other countries. We'll see. I'm not too worried about it at the moment. I think I'll be able to compete somewhere.
Yeah, I think so too. And the ultimate goal is, though, to actually get onto the world stage, so WNBF. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
However, I'm not thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
I'm just focusing on doing whatever I need to do to eventually be able to get there. Obviously, I would very much like becoming a pro, but before thinking about that stuff, we just have to worry ourselves about doing the work to get there. We need to first act like a pro to become a pro.
That is very, very true. Very, very true. So in that regard, yeah.
Just before we continue,
yeah,
I just want to thank you guys for this invite, for having me. I'm still a bit nervous. Just this morning, out of the blue, Pascal asked me to be here.
Yeah.
And immediately my heart started racing because I knew I would never refuse this.
Yeah, I didn't want to give you the opportunity to prepare too long for this.
No need.
Nervous.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you, because this has been quite a reference for me in the past couple of years. I've been following the podcast for 4 years now, I guess, since before becoming a Revive Stronger client. So yeah, it's a huge honor being here, talking to you guys and sharing it with all your listeners, your viewers. I'm very happy at the moment.
It's like, so Steve and I, at the beginning of the podcast, when you haven't been around, but this is something that you can listen to, we've talked about like famous people having a lot of money. And I mean, we want to give a little bit to the peasants as well at times, right? So that's why the honor, the sure. Invite is there, right? So no, it's great to have you on, especially because once again we are talking about you so often in regards to then low volume and being a kind of a phenomenon when it comes to just like the volume that you need, right? So in that discussion, before, I mean, Steve hasn't really said anything yet. I don't know if Steve wants to say something.
I have nothing to say apart from the honor is all ours. It's awesome to have you on, and actually, yeah, the fact that you were a bit nervous for it speaks to like your humble nature in that sense, I think. So I think the audience are going to be excited to hear a bit more from you. So I am as well, because I have not got the pleasure of coaching you. So I'm kind of interested and intrigued, because you talk mostly in Portuguese.
You lost. You're lost, man.
So yeah, I mean, we have gone through a lot now over the past years, right? You have also then changed fields. You're now a personal trainer yourself. You're building a brand in Portugal with a couple of colleagues now. I think 1 or 2?
3.
3,
but,
even. 3.
Yeah,
see,
the launch hasn't happened yet. Yeah. Everything's very confidential at the moment. Hopefully, the new project will start soon enough. Yeah. I'm counting on this month. Let's see.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the moment I'm coaching by myself. But yeah, we decided to join forces, and we'll be a team now from now on. Me and, like I said, 3 other colleagues.
And that is super cool, because I mean, once again, we've been together since such a long time now. I've seen you grow massively, not just like in a physical sense, but also in a psychological sense, which is super cool to see and have the privilege of being by your side here. But especially now at a point where you have evolved as an athlete so much, right? And we have tried so many things, and the training that you're now doing is completely different to what we've done like when we started, right? So do you want to give the listener a little bit of an insight of what has changed over the past years? How did you manage to get where you're at the moment in regards to then training, and also the way you look like at the moment as well?
Sure. So first things first, I've got to say that I've already have 10 years of training experience. So it's not like out of the sudden I just blew up and became super muscular. It's not super muscular, but you get what I'm saying.
No, that's right.
What has changed? Well, since we started working together, We focused on really figuring out my needs. Before that, I wasn't at all aware of them. I was training in a way that I thought it would be beneficial. Turns out it wasn't very much. There was a lot of margin for optimization. So that's what we ended up doing during all these years up until now. What else changed? Well, the fatigue management was a big component of it all. Introduction of deload weeks, primer phases, active recovery phases, working with RARs, reps in reserve. If it wasn't for that, and obviously the volume landmarks, I wouldn't be able to be where I am today. As for the volume landmarks, up until now, my needs have been decreasing in terms of number of total sets. In the past, when I say past, I mean 2 years ago or something like that, I still train with quite high volume. I recall having an MRV of 20 something sets for back, chest, legs have lower MRVs always. But yeah, in the past I trained with a lot more volume, that's for sure. And since my priority became the quality aspect of my training, things have drastically changed. My needs, my needs, yeah. My MEVs have lowered a lot, my MRVs as well. And what do I mean when I say quality? Well, form. I always make sure that my techniques are perfect in a way that I'm able to tension properly my muscles or my target muscles. I always train with max intent, make sure that the relative intensity is the correct one. And I focus also a lot on the mind-muscle connection. It isn't the highest priority thing you should be focusing on. However, after an intermediate or during an intermediate development stage, it becomes important for the best results and can be a game changer. So every set I do, I make sure that the form is perfect, and the relative intensity is just on point, and that I'm feeling what I should be feeling, that the muscle recruitment is ideal.
So it's basically, so this is also what we are always then basically talking about, trying to focus more on getting the most out of each and every single repetition rather than making it up with more sets or so, right?
Yep.
And the more you then focus on getting more out of each and every single repetition, the less volume you probably then need over time up to a certain threshold then, right? And for you, it seems like that over years, by working on the quality first, your MRV became lower and lower because each and every single repetition became so metabolically disruptive on a per rep basis, right?
Yep, that's it. And one thing that I've realized throughout my experience as a coach is that many more people than the ones that the number that we think would benefit from a low volume approach, let's say. Let's call it approach, not really an approach, but whatever. For example, I have a few clients with volume needs very similar to my own, and one in particular that even has to train with less total sets than I, which is crazy. No. For example, he does 2 legs of leg curls and he gets DOMs for days, man. It's it's a bit annoying because we have to tread lightly when it comes to the prescription. He has to be very careful during his training approach. He has to control himself a lot, because if he goes a bit closer to failure than what he should, he won't recover on time for the upcoming sessions. Yeah, it's kind of annoying, but hey, it is what it is. We have to respect our body, our needs, and act accordingly.
Do you find that it helps with the communicative aspect for your clients to convince them to try something like lower volumes when your requirements are so low as well? So basically, you act as a role model for them. Like, look at me, how much volume I need, and the way I look, right? It makes that easy, or does it make it easier then for the client to give into it as well and giving it a try?
Yeah, I guess it does, especially because when we start a new client process, we start with low volumes anyways, right? Better start with low than with high, because you can always add more without compromising the overload. It's not the overload I want to say. The overload principle. So by seeing me train with super low volumes, they more easily adhere to that initial protocol, let's call it. Yeah. If maybe I were to train with very high volumes, they would maybe question that approach. And yeah, that doesn't tend to happen. On the flip side, many critique my approach and think that I'm under training, which I'm not. There will always be critics, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, in that perspective, it's a huge help, no doubt, and I've been able to open a few eyes to. I've been able to open a few eyes, a few minds regarding this way of training. I was able to give perspective about the volume you actually need to progress. People always talk about more and more and more, and most of the times you need less with higher quality and not more.
What made you realize that you actually need less volume than you've been actually doing in the past?
Soreness was a huge factor.
Okay.
Like I've said before, one of my clients, after 2 sets of leg curls, gets sore for days, and I'm very similar. For example, nowadays I'm not even doing hip hinge movements or heavy hip hinge movements, because they just destroy me. The only type of hip hinge I do is hyperextension. A few mesos ago, one of my ham sessions was made out of 1 set of RDLs, was it?
Yeah.
plus
and
one or two
set
sets of leg curls, and
curls.
that just destroyed me. And even systematically, I was systemically, I was getting a lot of fatigue, and that was robbing me of some recovery, some precious recovery resources.
Sometimes also there, just to jump in real quickly. I mean, when you're loading up and you are also relatively strong, right? When you're loading up and working your way up to something like a heavy SLDL set, and you only do like one set, sometimes it's just like it takes a lot of time and work just to then.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Put load on the bar,
you waste a lot of time.
It's just, why not then do something like maybe 2 sets of hyper extensions instead, which then allow you maybe to be less systemically fatigued, get the same response in regards to the hypertrophic amount or stimulus that you are getting, instead of then going down that road of something like the SLDLs. So I think that you have then to be smart about the exercise selection and not dogmatic because you think one is necessarily better than the other.
Yep, I recall I would take sometimes almost 25 minutes or so to warm up for my heavy and only set of stiff leg deadlifts or RDLs. That wasn't fun at all. So I much prefer doing hyper extensions. I only have to do like 2 or 3 warm-up sets, and I'm good. I don't even have to rest that much. My workouts are much shorter now.
Absolutely.
For certain.
Do you so right now, what's the frequency like for your body parts then? Are you doing like 2 times per week?
So for most muscle groups, I'm doing 2 times per week. How do you know? Delts, I'm training 4 times per week. Delts is the only muscle group that I train with more frequency. So I'm doing pull hams, chest and arms, quads and calves split. I train 3 days. I have a rest day. I repeat that. That completes 1 microcycle, and and so forth.
That's 6 days a week?
More or less. 6 days every 8 days. 6 days of training every 8 days. I figured this is the best approach for me, especially because my hams take a while to recover. Even just doing the leg curls and hyper extensions, even just doing 3 total sets per workout, they get quite a few DOMs. My back as well. That's why they are paired up. I really enjoy doing back and hams together. In the past, I recall I would get sore. My back would get sore from the heavy hip hinge movements, and when I was to hit back, it was still sore. It wasn't working that well. This way it is, and it's a split that I'm implementing with a lot of my clients. It tends to work very, very well.
It is, I have to say, it is a very, very interesting split. The creation of that split was, of course, taking a long time until we got there, right? We've tested several things out, several different setups, and this is basically where we ended up with just a decent level of individualization, of just like trial and erroring, seeing what works, seeing how you're recovering for body parts, and then actually ending up with a split like this. It's great to hear that it also works now with other clients as well. And for me, it's just, I would like to know is there a difference when you are cutting or gaining on the amount of soreness that you're experiencing, or how well you are recovering? So for me personally, for example, in a cutting phase, I hardly ever get sore, maybe in the first week of a training block, but in a gaining phase, it's way more severe, and sometimes even up to the point when I've been cutting for a longer period of time, I don't experience any kind of soreness any longer. And then I go into a gaining phase with maybe lower volume approach, and I'm immediately getting sore. Right? Is that the same for you, or is it not really different?
Yeah, it tends to happen with me and with everyone, I think. During the first cutting meso, the level of soreness is practically the same as during the massing phase. But after the second, third meso, DOMs don't appear that much. For example, I'm in the first week of the new meso. Yesterday I trained chest. I was expecting some DOMs today, and nothing. My chest is completely fine. Yeah. It's a thing that I wanted to talk to you about in the next episode. But yeah, it doesn't mean that the volume is not sufficient at all. It's almost an adaptation to the caloric deficit. I don't think you guys have a proper explanation for this occurrence.
I can only assume or make some assumptions why that is the case, right? And I think that Mike has even been on the podcast talking about that with Steve at some point. I think it's like a year ago or so.
He spoke about it. The first time he spoke about it was at the first seminar in 2000. Really? When was that? I can't even remember when that was now. 15 or something? I think, yeah, something like that.
The first one?
Yeah, the first one. So
okay. I wasn't there.
I've got video footage actually of it, so I could probably go back and check it. But I have asked him again on a podcast, and I can't remember the explanation. It's something to do with like the body doesn't want to take on the soreness because it hasn't got the resources to kind of deal with it. So it's interesting because I literally had a discussion with the client recently. He was like, I'm getting more sore. I think it's because my sleep hasn't been as good. And I'm like, oh, not sure if it is that, because that would be kind of the opposite explanation where you're kind of under recovering. So you think you get more sore during a cutting phase, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be the case.
Okay. Yeah. One of those things we still don't have a full grasp on.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing that would interest me, and that is, of course, with the volume landmarks and also the people that you were then following, right? There was definitely also, when the volume landmarks came to be, it was most often misinterpreted of, okay, you need to work up to your MRV, right? And you're falling clearly outside of that spectrum with many of your muscle groups. Was it for you then hard to experiment or to come to the conclusion of like, maybe I need less, even though that the volume landmarks suggest that maybe the range is like 10 to 20 sets on average for a muscle group, and then allowing yourself to actually go below that? How was that for you?
I wasn't like adamant. I wasn't like suspicious. I accepted it quite well. I don't care how much volume I have to do. I just do whatever I must to progress, and that
results are your preference.
Yeah, that's right. And people must think that way. People focus on the wrong things, whether is volume, load on the bar. Nothing of that really matters by itself. For example, in a bodybuilding show, the judges won't ask you how much volume you're doing, all that, how much load you're able to lift. That doesn't matter. So returning to your question, I took it very well. It was a thing. It was a new thing, I think, to experiment. Why not? And turns out to be just what I needed.
Yeah.
Did you ask something else?
No.
Oh, you talk about the RP landmarks. People have to realize that those are only reference numbers. Sure, with the majority of the population, they will work quite well, but they have to be adapted to one's needs. Just because the reference says your MEV but your MEV might be 10 sets per week for chest, doesn't mean that that's the case. It could be more, it could be less. In my case, it's less, way less. Not way less, but yeah, less. And if you follow blindly those references, you could end up not progressing at all. I know I wouldn't, because my MRVs sometimes are even lower than the proposed MEVs.
Yeah,
that is the case, for example, for my quads. So yeah, if I were to just follow the numbers,
you would die on my
yeah, I would die.
Right now.
I would need a deload every other week.
Yeah, and I find it very, very interesting and very necessary for people to hear that it is absolutely all right to actually go the other way and actually reducing the volume, because I think that the only solution that is in the head of the majority of people is the way up. Right? Up with load, up with repetitions, so increase the reps on a weekly basis, and also up in regards to then the set volume, right? When in reality, sometimes what it is that we really need is the way down in order to then actually move forward. And I think that is super important, especially what is important to listen to you, what you said there in regards to the experimentation with your clients. That with the majority of your clients, you actually took that approach of lowering the volume, and it worked fantastically for them as well. And I think that especially with our audience, in our realm, many people fall victim to just increasing things on end up to the point where they don't see any kind of progression. But most of the time, it's just because they are chronically fatigued without them realizing that or so, right? And I think that there's definitely props to the bros, because they put a lot of emphasis on the recovery aspect of things. They preach it all the time, like, you are growing when you're resting, so make sure to always then have the rest periods there, so rest periods at home. I think that this is super important to then highlight, that people shouldn't be training all the time with high volume also, right? It's more a needs thing. If you need it, then go for it. But what if you don't?
Yep.
Right.
And you're just shooting yourself on the foot.
Yeah. And I mean, if you get better results with less time at the gym, with less strain on your body and on your system, wouldn't you do that?
Sure.
I mean, it's the same as if you're presented with two offers for a car, right? And it's basically the same car. Why would you go with the more expensive car when it's basically the same car underneath, right? And that's the same thing. If you opt for the more expensive road, why would you do that? Why? Right?
Thing is, many people like to train and like being in the gym, and when they look at their training program and see, I don't know, 4 sets of chest, four total sets of chest for the day, they're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
this usually is my warm-up or whatever.
Yeah, I can even bring up an example that once I had someone signing up for the coaching, send him over the program, and there was even relatively high volume, right? Because he was convinced that he needs that. And he looked over the program and actually canceled. And I never heard back from him because he ghosted me. He said, like, this can't be enough volume. And I'm very, very underwhelmed with what I'm seeing here. Right? So some people are just like, they have the mentality of like more. And when I don't see the number, that they wear it as a badge of honor.
Yeah, that's
like
unfortunate.
Right? And that I think is the wrong approach to it. You once again put it very well that you do what is necessary and not really what it is that you want in regards to the numbers in the spreadsheet.
Yep. I forgot what I was about to say.
I have one question if we have time for
go
it.
ahead, Steve.
Yeah, sure, go.
And then we also, I think, are coming up on time.
Yeah, I know you guys, Z said that soreness was one of the indicators that you used to kind of rule out higher volumes and that lower volumes were working well for you once you got your quality in check. I know you said delts are 4 times a week. I know for me, at least, my delts, I can't remember the last time they got sore. And I'm interested to hear if every muscle group for you gets sore or if there are some that don't, and then what indicators you're using for those to kind of get your volume in the right place.
Yes, some muscle groups don't get sore at all, or they do, but it's super rare. For example, delts. Sometimes they get sore, but it's when the number of sets increase, and it must be a very, not a very demanding, but yeah, it must be a heavy exercise, like for example, upright rows. I recall not long ago I got sore from 3 sets of those. Biceps, sometimes, but it's not very usual. Triceps never. Calves from time to time, but very slightly. And in those cases, I evaluate the magnitude of the pump during the workouts. The feeling or the perception of the fatigue, the local fatigue, loss of function, all that. For example, let me see. Yesterday, I did a chest and arm session. In the arm department, there was 2 sets of skull crushers, 2 sets of bicep curls. And by the end of those sets, there was like a brutal pump in my arms, like a nasty pump. And I know in that moment that I've done enough. It's like we're always saying, we don't need DOMs to tell us that the stimulus is sufficient. DOMs is a consequence of valid strategies to create hypertrophic adaptations. It's not a requirement, and sometimes having a lot of DOMs is actually counterproductive because all the MPS isn't enough to repair and adapt that muscle. So sometimes it's even better not having DOMs than having DOMs.
No, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, we've spoken about it many a time. It's cool to hear you kind of describe it there as well. I just wonder if there were people being like, oh, I never get sore, I don't know what to use. And you can use these kind of other measures as well, which are great. And
obviously then you must look at your performance, if it's improving or not.
No, cool. Then I think we're coming up on time. Thank you very, very much for coming on, Z. I think that the people have taken a lot away from this episode. I think it was very valuable that you came on talking about it, that we now have the living proof here, that it's not just like a person that I made up, that someone is really training that way and is creating and seeing great results with that. Z, when the people want to actually reach out to you or find you, where can they find you?
They can find me on my Instagram page, Enhanced Physique. And that's it, I think, at the time being.
So right now, and
I'm not releasing my phone number, so
I have it, so I put it into the good so that everyone can actually spam you. No, but yeah, once again, thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure. And
it's my pleasure, man.
that also makes me once again just reevaluate my approach to something like volume, right? I mean, it's always good to have someone who is then needing something else than you do to then reassess and reevaluate of what it is that you do yourself, right? So yeah, Steve, any last words from your end?
No, just, thank you again, Z. It's a pleasure chatting, and hopefully this has gone down well, and you get a load of people following you now and wanting to see more shots, and don't get
that's
views.
the only reason why I
questions.
came here. That's the only reason.
More followers.
But no, honestly, I mean, you're a good person to follow, and I do recommend people do check out Z, especially if there's any Portuguese people like here. You got the perfect person here to help you out.
They also listen.
So no, I have nothing more to say. It was really great just to hear a bit more background behind kind of what is Z doing, and I'm excited to see you, whatever stage you come to this year, and see what you bring, because it's going to be something special. I know that.
And I'm hoping that we can all be together on the same stage.
So that would be amazing.
I hope so.
That would
in
be
LA.
Really amazing. In LA.
Well,
cool. Then
let's
thank
hope
you very
so.
much, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. And I guess I'll speak to you guys next week. Cheers.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascals. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people. But each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.